Hello. Today I want to talk about allowing acceptance and appreciation. Now, the first two, I would like to really clarify and say it's non resisting and non denying, is really what I'm suggesting. Because I'm not trying to give an egoic action, something to do. And I think that's part of the problem with the typical spiritual catchphrases or keywords that get thrown out of allowing and accepting. Because then what you have is a bunch of people, a bunch of me's and egos, trying to allow, trying to accept. And that's not the way to do it. Because you're setting up a conflict. You're fighting with things that are running internally, thoughts, conditioning, things like that. So really I want to turn that part around. And I suggest to look at how we're resisting and how we're denying. Because if we ceased resisting, if we weren't resisting, then we'd automatically be allowing. If we ceased denying, we would automatically be accepting. And that's kind of how it works. Is what we're doing is resisting and denying. And so to basically cease doing that, you just have to look at it, recognize what you're doing, and cease making that effort. So I'm not, for the first two, I'm not suggesting doing anything, it's a ceasing to do. And then the last is appreciation. Because I found that once you have totally allowed and accepted, that's great and all, you can be very content. But there's more joy and happiness and juice in life if you also appreciate. And appreciation is a bit more active. There is a, but it's more of an attitude. Everything is appreciated, so it's not an egoic pick and choose. You're really just trying to universally appreciate what it is for being what it is. Now, these three are key because it is because we don't allow, accept, and appreciate that we have a bunch of these other negative emotions and issues. For example, if you truly allowed, accepted, and appreciated the past, what is there to regret? If you truly allowed, accepted, and appreciated the past, what would there be to forgive? Something to think about. Now, because the past kind of got us into the present, really, you can kind of combine the two, because if you can allow, accept, and appreciate the now as it is, you almost kind of have to allow, accept, appreciate the past with it, because the past got us to now. It's process, it's flow, and you can't deny or resist the previous flow if you accept the current flow, if you know what I mean. But because I know that in spirituality there's a lot of time spent on forgiving. I've even given small classes and guided meditations on forgiving. Forgiving is great. Forgiving is grand. It's important. But I've come to realize that the only reason you need to forgive anything is because you haven't allowed, accepted, and appreciated what had happened. So there's this resistance. Fundamentally, we're resisting, denying, and not appreciating what is, and that's what's bringing up all this other stuff. Same thing with regret, shame, things like that. We hold things against ourselves, against other people. Why? Because we haven't allowed, accepted, and appreciated what had happened. And so I find these days much of my focus isn't on these various aspects, regret, forgiveness. I find that the root of most of the stuff that I've dealt with in spirituality over the years, most of the stuff revolves, and the root is allowing, acceptance, and appreciation. And if you have that, if you've allowed, accepted, and appreciated what is as it is for as long as it is, then everything kind of works itself out. So, thank you much.